In the village of Osu, nestled beautifully between an emerald forest and vast golden plains, every person had their purpose. The weavers skillfully turned grass into cloth, the farmers diligently turned seeds into delicious yams, and the wise elders transformed memories into timeless wisdom for the generations to follow. Everyone had a task, a role, a defined place in the vibrant tapestry of village life. But young Kofi was different. Kofi was a listener. While all the other children were busy practicing their spear throwing, honing their aim, or learning the intricate art of basket weaving, Kofi could be found by the great baobab tree. He wasn't idle. He was deeply engaged. He listened with intent to the rhythmic thrum-thrum of a dragonfly's delicate wings as it danced in the air. He heard the gentle shshshshsh of the wind as it whispered secrets through the tall elephant grass. But his greatest fascination, the sound he cherished most, was the talking drum of the village chief. This wasn't just any drum. The talking drum was a masterpiece, a sacred instrument. Its wooden body was elegantly shaped like an hourglass, hugged tightly by a web of leather cords. When the chief, with practiced hands, squeezed those cords and struck the drumhead, something magical happened. The drum didn't just produce a beat, it spoke. It had a language all its own. It could announce the coming of the rains, signaling the start of the planting season. It could joyfully declare a time for feasting and celebration. It could share the wonderful news of a new baby's arrival, its voice echoing through the entire village. It was the heart and the herald of Osu. One warm evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, Kofi's father approached him. He looked at his son, sitting so still, so quiet, and said with a concerned voice, "Kofi, my son, why do you just sit there? Life is about action. You must learn to work with your hands, to build, to create." Kofi turned to his father, his expression serious but calm. "I am working, father," he replied softly, his voice barely a whisper. "I am working with my ears. The drum, it's telling a story about the mountain, but it sounds lonely." His father, and the other adults nearby who had overheard, couldn't help but chuckle. They exchanged amused glances. A drum could be loud, certainly. It could be fast, setting the pace for a dance. But how could a drum, an object of wood and leather, possibly feel lonely? The idea seemed absurd, a childish fantasy. They patted Kofi on the head and went about their evening chores, dismissing his strange words. Then, the great silence fell upon the village. It began one morning, just as the rooster crowed. The chief stood in the center of the village square, ready to deliver the day's messages. He struck the drum, expecting its usual clear, melodic speech to ring out. But instead, there was only a dull, hollow thud. A lifeless sound. He tried again, striking with more force, but the result was the same. The talking drum had lost its voice. A wave of confusion and unease washed over the village. Without the drum's guidance, the hunters were lost, unsure which paths in the forest were safe. The weavers, who timed their shuttles to the drum's beat, lost their rhythm, their patterns becoming chaotic. The entire village felt out of sync. Even the sun seemed to rise more slowly, its light less certain without the drum's morning call. The most skilled craftsmen in Osu gathered around the silent instrument. They worked tirelessly, tightening the cords until their fingers were raw, rubbing fine oils into the leather until it shone. But nothing worked. The drum remained stubbornly, frighteningly silent. The heart of the village had stopped beating. It was then that young Kofi, the boy who listened, shyly made his way through the worried crowd and walked up to the chief. With a courage that surprised everyone, he asked, "May I listen to it?" The chief, his face etched with worry and exhaustion, looked down at the small boy. He had tried everything else. With a heavy sigh, he handed the precious drum over. Kofi took it gently, with a reverence that touched the chief's heart. But Kofi didn't strike it. He didn't try to tighten the strings or adjust the leather. Instead, he did what he did best. He pressed his ear firmly against the warm, wooden side of the drum, closed his eyes, and just listened. He stood there for a long, long time, so still and so focused that a blue butterfly, mistaking him for a statue, landed softly on his shoulder. The entire village watched, holding their breath. Finally, Kofi opened his eyes. He looked at the chief and whispered, "The drum is not broken." A murmur went through the crowd. "It is full." The chief leaned in closer, intrigued. "Full of what, child?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. full of all the sounds it has heard but never got to say, Kofi explained. His voice was clear and confident now. For years, it has listened to the secrets of the forest and heard the quiet cries of the river. It's absorbed the whispers of the wind and the songs of the birds. But we only ever ask it to tell our news, our stories. We never let it share its own. Understanding dawned in Kofi's eyes. He began to hum. It wasn't a village song that anyone recognized. It was a new melody, the sound of raindrops gently tapping on the wide leaves of the baobab tree. Then, he began to tap the side of the drum with just his fingertips. He didn't use a heavy mallet, but tapped with the gentleness of a steady, loving heartbeat. He played the rhythm of the world he heard every day. Slowly, a miracle began. The drum started to vibrate in response. A low, beautiful moan escaped the wood, a sound no one had ever heard it make before. It was a sound of release, of being heard. As Kofi continued to play, his fingers dancing, he channeled all the sounds of the world around them. The cricket's cheerful chirp, the river's constant, soothing flow, the hawk's piercing cry as it soared high above. And the drum began to sing back. Its voice returned, but it was changed. It wasn't just talking now, it was laughing. It was weeping. It was singing with joy. The voice of the drum was back, richer, deeper, and more expressive than ever before. From that day forward, Kofi's role in the village was clear. He became the official drumkeeper, the one who understood its soul. He taught the people of OSU a valuable lesson, that to speak well and to be heard, one must first learn to listen, not just to each other's words, but to the world that breathes and sings all around them. And whenever the talking drum played from that day on, it no longer just gave orders or announced news. It sang the beautiful, complex, and wonderful song of everything. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales from around the world.